Podcast.
It's Build a Big Podcast, the marketing podcast for podcasters. If you've got a podcast, if you want a podcast, and you want to make people care about it, you want to grow your audience, make people care about you, make people care about your message, make more money with that message, you are in the right place. I've got a free Big Podcast toolkit with all of this stuff wrapped up in a nice bow. It's at bigpodcast.com. Go get that. And while you are there, if you want more of this, you can subscribe, or as Apple says, follow this podcast. It's all at bigpodcast.com. I just went through a home refinance. There was some prep work involved. Had to get a lot of papers together. But the final meeting, the one with the closing attorney, with us signing all sorts of documents in blue ink, that took about 45 minutes. And I now have a brand new home loan that's going to save me about $120,000. Same house, different cost. I want you to think about that. It's the exact same house. Absolutely nothing has changed except the amount of money that I'm paying. You've got something very similar that you can do with your podcast. Same words, same interviews, better results. Maybe you're wondering, what could that possibly be? It's record it well. Let me tell you a story. A popular podcaster, he asked for feedback on his show. This guy's trying something where he's streaming his podcast via Clubhouse, which means that one of the co-hosts is coming in via a phone. So you've got one guy who sounds great, just like a normal podcast. He's recording into a mic, he's in a studio. And the other guy, it sounds like he's on a phone. Which one of these guys do you think is perceived as more trustworthy? Data shows that we trust the person with the better audio, even if the guy on the phone has a better message or is more skilled. This is something that is so easy to fix. Like I said, same words, same interviews. You're doing the performance, you're just not capturing it well. For these guys in particular, they could leave everything the way that they've got it as far as connecting to Clubhouse for the broadcast, but the guy who's coming through on the phone, they could put a mic in front of his mouth, record his voice into a local computer, then take those recordings, the guy who's in the studio and the guy who's on the phone via Clubhouse, but is also recording via a mic, merge those tracks into their editing software and mix their files down. I've been doing a lot of remote interviews over the last year because of COVID. Can't get people in the studio with me. It's too dangerous. Normally we've got 4 people. That's assuming there's only one guest and not any more than one guest. Me, a guest, an engineer, a producer, in a room that's maybe, 8 by 8. Let's say it's 64 square feet. Not safe. So what are we doing? We're doing everything remotely. Maybe you do your podcast this way all the time. Via Skype, via Squadcast, via CleanFeed, Zencastr, whatever you use. We're doing something very similar. Sometimes we've got issues with somebody not understanding the technology. Fortunately for me, on this particular show, these people are in the music industry, a lot of musicians, a lot of access to studios. They've got microphones around. They know how to record their voices. We say, hey man, how do you normally record your voice? What do you do when you're recording music? All right, record it that way. Get with me on the phone. I'll record my side into my computer. You record your side into your computer. Done. Sounds like we're in the same place. So you can actually bypass something like Squadcast, Zencastr, Skype. Some people call it a double ender, tape sync. I've heard different words for it. Take each individual recording, mix it down, sounds like you're in the same room. You can do that with a Clubhouse connection. And the result is that you're still on Clubhouse, but you've got the studio quality of the program that gets distributed via podcast. Again, same words, same performance, same time to do it even. Maybe you got to plug your mic in and hit record, but more or less, same time. Maybe it adds a couple minutes. Easy. I reached out to this podcaster with the solution. He asked me if it was a massive difference. I said, yes. It's like a phone versus a studio recording. You sound great. He sounds like balls. This was his response. He said, thanks, but for this, it would be too much work on his end. What work? I thought he misunderstood because it's as easy as I just explained it to you. All this guy's got to do is put a mic in front of his mouth, run it into a computer, hit the record button. just like a normal podcast. So I thought it was that. Or maybe this is a guy who just doesn't understand that it's important to have good audio. I'm not saying this because I'm a podcaster or in radio. I'm saying it because the data backs it up. This guy's real into SEO. He's into tracking conversion. He's big time into data. So I send him the data, let him know why it's important. Actually, I sent him a couple of university studies on the topic. And just because I care, I said, I've got an audio engineering friend who can do this for you. That's his job. It's no extra work. You guys got money? Pay my guy. He'll take care of it for you. I get the two hooked up. And this was the response. Hey, thanks for this. The challenge would be getting my co-host to do this. And I think, what? Is this guy not understanding? Put a mic in front of his mouth? Let my guy do all the work? Anyway, long story short, the guy didn't get it. He said, look, let me clarify. It's too much work to have him set it up each time. He will not do it. I get it. It is a little more work to plug in a USB mic into your computer. It is a little more work to take that mic and put it in front of your mouth to capture words that you are saying already into a telephone. It's a little more work to take that file that you've recorded, upload it onto Google Drive, and transfer it to your audio editor. But it's not that much more work. The results, however, are massive. People are judging you by how you sound. It doesn't have to be perfect. But you want a mic. You don't want to use a telephone. You don't want to use the built-in mic on your computer. You don't want to use AirPods or your iPhone headset. I've had guests that will argue with me. No, man, this is the way we've always done it. Yeah. Well, I guess this isn't the opportunity for you. Because the way we've always done it is respecting our listeners and getting a good capture of your voice so they will actually listen to you. If they're not going to listen to you, what's the point in us even having this conversation, recording it, and putting it out there? There is no point. The work of podcasting is this. It's developing specialized knowledge that you talk about. It's booking guests. It's scheduling time to record. It's building an audience. It's keeping the audience. There's a lot of work in podcasting, but it is not a lot of work to plug in a mic, to put it in front of your face, to load up a program like QuickTime or Audacity or Adobe Audition and hit the record button. I've talked about the new Audacity on here. You could actually automate everything within that program. So when you save the file, it gets uploaded to Google Drive automatically. If you wanted to continue the automation, you could use something like Zapier, Pabbly Connect, Integrately, to where every time an MP3 file or a WAV file, however you're saving your podcast, gets uploaded into that destination, a message is automatically sent to your editor with a link for him or her to download. That's how easy this is. Not doing this, maybe it saves you a few minutes. I've got a permanent setup. When I walk in this room, everything's ready to go. I turn it on. It's good. I don't have to set it up. But let's say that you do have to pull out a computer, turn it on, plug in a mic. Maybe by not doing that, you're saving 5 or 10 minutes. What's the cost, though? The podcaster that I reached out to, him and his co-host get about 1 million downloads per month. That's 1 million interactions with the public that don't sound very good. There's more than one episode a month. Let's say there's 50,000 people listening. 20 episodes, they each get listened to by 50,000 people. That's being conservative. That's at least 50,000 people that you don't sound as good to. And some of those people will not trust you as much had you taken the time to mic yourself properly. That's the waste of time there. It's not your time, it's their time. The time of 50,000 people. But it's hurting you. This is something to think about. Maybe not for you, but for the next time you've got a guest who wants to come on your podcast. He's like, oh man, no, man, we always do it this way. Yeah. And nobody listens to that guy. You or a professional. I don't know if you've got to send the guy a mic, tell him how to plug it in. I don't know if he's got a mic and he can plug it in, hit that red button, and upload the file to you. Regardless, people need to come correct when they're a guest in your podcast. There's no excuse with the amount of technology that we have available to us and the low price of technology that we have available for somebody not to show up and be recorded well. Are there exceptions to the rule? Yeah, maybe. Maybe. If you had Oprah, Taylor Swift, Barack Obama, somebody who's at a really big level, and there would be a lot of interest no matter how they're recorded if they come on your podcast. Yeah, I'll make an exception for that. But that's big. These guys getting 1 million downloads a month, if they came on this podcast with a phone, no, absolutely not. Because that's not respectful of you. That information isn't that good for me to waste your time like that. Something to think about. Believe me, that I get the bitch of having to set something up, put something together, learn new tools. As somebody who's self-employed, when I did that refinance, there was a lot of paperwork that I had to get together. A mortgage guy, I've done a mortgage through him before. Easy. He said, man, rates are low. You want to do this? Here's how much it's going to save you. I said, okay, you got my attention now. And he said, it's even easier now with COVID. People are being a little bit more lenient for self-employed people. I said, all right, you got me. No excuses. Let's do it. It turns out it was the opposite. Because so many companies went out of business last year, they're actually harder on me than they would have been otherwise. Let me give you an example. 90 minutes before I was supposed to meet with that closing attorney, I had a request for more documentation. That is how tight this thing was. Say, hey man, the underwriter wants one more document from you. Do you have something showing income from the last 2 or 3 days? I'm like, all right, cool. Got it to him. It's all good. But I want you to think about that. It came down to literally the last couple of hours. They were being that cautious. But was it worth it? Hell yeah. $120,000 savings over the life of the loan for the same exact product. You got that same thing. You're going to record your voice regardless, so why not do it with a good mic? You're also publishing an episode once, something that's going to get heard again and again and again. Why not make it the best that it can be? You do it once, and you reap the benefits for years to come. What is that worth? For these guys that I approached for this info, a lot more than I saved on this mortgage. They've got massive leverage on this podcast, and they're not taking advantage of it like they should. Take advantage of what you've got. If you need help, reach out to me, bigpodcast.com. If you go to bigpodcast.com/subscribe, I'll get you this podcast. And on the site, I've got the Big Podcast Toolkit. It is free. I've got episode templates. I've got information in there on how you can grow an audience, spread your message more effectively, get more people to your podcast, and make more money with your message. Everything is at bigpodcast.com. So go there now before you forget, bigpodcast.com. And I'll see you on the next episode of Build a Big Podcast.